And welcome, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out with you. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Got an exciting show for you today. Want to first remind you that we are sponsored by Datamaster. Of course, Datamaster is what I use where I can to bring the data from various sources into my report. Saves me 30 to 60 minutes per report. You should be using it as well. Go to datamasterfreetrial.com/coach for more information. Datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. We are sponsored also by OREP Insurance. OREP is my E&O insurance company. And folks, I tell you what I love about E&O, or about OREP rather, is being able to pick up the phone and call and actually have somebody answer. Somebody that I can talk to, somebody that I can ask my questions to, and they can answer me. That's OREP. You can find them at orep.org. And finally, we are sponsored by Alamode. Alamode is the software that I have been using to create my appraisal reports for the last 20 plus years. You should be using them as well. Go to alamode.com/free trial. Once again, it's alamode.com/free trial. Well, folks, we have an exciting show for you today. We are talking about advisory opinion number 37. And I know some appraisers are going, what? 37? They're looking furiously through their book. They can't find 37. You won't find 37 yet, folks, because it's not quite ready for prime time. It is coming out in January. And have on the program with me today, Mr. Jared Priesler from Datamaster. Welcome, Jared. I appreciate you taking the time.
Dustin, thanks for having us on, and I really appreciate being here. This is great.
I appreciate you taking the time. You know, there at Datamaster, you're quite busy. You joined their team, I know, in 2016, but you've been an appraiser for 20 plus years as an independent fee appraiser. I love that about Datamaster. They've got real appraisers working there in the office that understand the profession. Not only were you an independent fee appraiser, but you earned your SRA designation from the Appraisal Institute in 2011, no small feat. In 2014, became a certified instructor for the Appraisal Institute. You serve as the government relations chair to the Utah chapter, and you've served as a board trustee, member, and vice president. Boy, impressive, of the Utah Association of Appraisers since 2010. Jared, quite the bio, my friend. You're a busy guy.
We try to stay busy. In fact, I still do fee appraisal work with my fee appraisal company. So Datamaster hasn't replaced that. I spend about 30, 40 hours a week with Datamaster, making sure that the product's relevant, that we're doing what we need to do. And then I implement that and put it into my own business practice. And I use Datamaster every day for my own work. And it saves me time, and time is money. So
absolutely. No, we talk about it saving 30 to 60 minutes per report, and I have no hesitation making that claim because it's amazing what it does. So I appreciate Datamaster, and I appreciate you, Jared, being on today. So the reason I wanted to have you on is wanted to talk about some changes that are going on. We're going to be talking about appraiser or advisory opinion number 37, which is not hit prime time yet. It's not hit the book yet. I think it. Is it approved? Do you know, Jared?
Yes.
Number 37?
Yes, it's had its final approval. The third reading was approved the beginning of April. And so what we're talking about is official. It will go into effect January 1st, 2018.
Okay, very good. And with that, let's start with the basics, shall we, Jared? Let's talk about, first of all, what is an advisory opinion when we're talking USPAP?
So advisory opinions, they're kind of those things that are at the back of USPAP that are stuck in at the end. They are really intended to explain different sections of USPAP, and they're intended for not only appraisers, but users of appraisal services, and specifically or included in that is regulators. And we find that a lot of state regulators go to these advisory opinions to kind of interpret and to set the benchmark or the standard for appraisers in their states. What it doesn't do, I think it's important to understand that an advisory opinion does not change any of the language within USPAP. Mm-hmm. It just continues to explain and make a practical application of the sections of USPAP.
Okay. Yes, exactly right. And I think it's important. I'm glad you pointed that out, that advisory opinions, the way it's always told to me, are not binding. They're not the law of the land, but they do help us to understand what the law of the land is. In other words, they help us to understand those standards that sometimes get a little bogged down in the gobbledygook that I call lawyerese. So
correct. Absolutely correct. So
Okay, good. So let's talk about these changes then, specifically with most advisory opinions, Jared. This is interesting. With most advisory opinions, I think, most of them are fairly simple. They're fairly straightforward. Any appraiser, any listener right now, grab your USPAP book or jump online and start reading through the advisory opinions. They're very simple. They cover just a few areas. This one covers like a dozen or so.
Yeah, it's a big one. I was earlier in the year, I was visiting with Greg Stevens, who's a USPAP instructor, and I told him that I was going to be teaching on this. I actually developed a CE course around this.
Oh, okay, good.
The Datamaster offers. And there are 14 different sections if you count the Advisory Opinion 18 as one of those sections and Advisory Opinion 33. But basically, it covers conduct section of ethics. It covers rule keeping. It covers the competency section and, of course, the comments to the competency section. Scope of work, standards 1.1a, b, and c, standards 1.6, a and b, standards 2, standards 3, and then, of course, those two advisory opinions that deal with AVMs, automated value modeling, and discounted cash flow. So this is unlike other advisory opinions that we've seen in the scope of impact and the work that it just covers. It's just gigantic.
Any idea why? I mean, what's the change in the pattern with? I mean, it seems to me like they should split this up into at least 3 or 4, if not 14, different AOs.
Well, my thoughts are that computer-assisted tools are really the topic of this advisory opinion, and they're becoming such an integral part of a lot of the appraisal process that it just hits every part. As appraisers, we're being asked to do things faster and quicker with more accuracy, proving our adjustments, and we have to turn to tools in order to be able to get that done. And I think the standards board, the foundation, recognizes that, and there wasn't a way to split it up. It had to cover everything.
Okay. And you mentioned the key term of today, and that is computer-assisted tools. Let's define that first. What is a CAT?
So according to the advisory opinion, it could be anything as simple as that disto tape laser measure that you use to measure the house, the software program that you use to calculate the square footage and the floor plan, all the way to something as complex as a multiple regression analysis software. It includes your MLS. There's a computer system behind that you use to search for comparables. So it's pretty all-encompassing. When you think if there's a computer behind that tool, this is included in Advisory Opinion 37.
Okay, so in other words, the reason there's 14 different points is each of them. What you're saying, each of them is actually a subpoint of the title, which is these computer-assisted tools and using them within the appraisal industry. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
So each of these aspects that you pointed out really do have and point back to that big umbrella.
Yep.
Okay. So obviously this has some interest for a company like Datamaster. I assume that Datamaster would be considered one of these CATs, one of these computer-assisted tools.
Absolutely.
What kind of impact does this have on a company like yourself?
Well, we need to make sure not only that that the information that we're passing through or when we're doing calculations on our end, that those are accurate, that the users of our software understand them. Just under the competency side, an appraiser that uses our service needs to be able to call in and say, how is this working? What's the behind the scenes formulas? Mm-hmm. And we need to be able to present that in a way that they can put in their work file in a clear, concise way that they can understand. And so it keeps us on our toes and makes sure that everything that we're doing is correct and accurate. I think also the other key to this for us is the appraiser's always in control. Mm. We're not out there trying to outguess which comps should be included or those kind of things. The appraiser, and one of the keys to AO 37 is that the appraiser's in control of the process.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Jared, because when I talk to people, other appraisers about Datamaster, they're not familiar with them. First of all, I have to go, what? You're not familiar? And then after we get past that point, I say, I start to field questions from them as I describe. Let's pretend I'm a new appraiser to Datamaster. That maybe I came to a booth at an expo or at the summit, and I'm walking through, and then I say, Datamaster. I think I heard that bald fat guy on the podcast talking about that. What is Datamaster? What would you say to me?
So I would say Datamaster, the way that I use it is the most simple. I select my data that I want to use in the appraisal in my MLS. I create an export file or a file to get that of the data. Datamaster grabs that information. They marry it up with public records, and then push it into my report the way I want it pushed in. So all the customization, I want fireplace to come in a particular way, or swimming pools, or however that is, as long as it's within, if it's a UAD report, it's going to come in UAD compliant. Datamaster does that heavy lifting for me. It's so that I can spend my time analyzing, not inputting data.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a whole lot of room for mistakes, Jared. I mean, I want to be in control as the appraiser. I want to see the square footage, and then I want to hand type it in each time so that I know it's right.
That takes a lot of time on your part. We actually will let you in your configuration decide which source you want to use for that information. If you want public records to have that to be primary, MLS to be secondary, you're in complete control. So you decide which information comes in at which point.
Okay, good. And I'm obviously being a bit facetious and trying to punctuate the fact that when we're talking about data and the tedious process of moving it from one piece to another, there's a whole lot more room there for human mistake than there would be.
Oh my goodness, I can fat finger a lot more than me just verifying information. I'm much better at verifying.
That is the key right there, and I think that's a key word is verification. And by the way, folks, if you don't think there's a difference between Idaho and Utah, did you notice that I said Datamaster and he said Datamaster? I'm just pointing that out. There's a difference. There's two different states, and there's two different pronunciations. Which is right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know on Star Trek, I think it's data.
There you go.
Or is he No, I think it's data. I don't know. I heard one time one is plural and one's singular, but I don't even think that's right.
I'm glad you're as confused on it as I am, because I sometimes listen to the guys at Datamaster and they say Datamaster, and I can sometimes feel chagrined a little bit. So
both are acceptable here.
There you go. Okay, so now that we understand a little bit about what Datamaster does, moving that data from whatever program, MLS, county records, what have you, into your report. Let's talk a little bit more about this AO, this advisory opinion number 37. Have you at Datamaster had to change any of your processes based on this new AO coming out?
No, you know what? As a matter of fact, when this first came out and I started reviewing it and preparing some comments, I was pleasantly surprised. All of our formulas are online already. You can go in and hit the help button either within our software or on our website, and everything is explained there. We were in complete compliance, and I think that's just says volumes to Rick Liffrith, who was the founder of Datamaster, and we really have not had to change any of our processes.
Okay. So. Cool. The other question I think the listeners would have is we're talking about specifically computer-assisted tools, and that's really what AO 37 is going to address. Again, folks, this doesn't happen until, was it January 28th?
January 1st, yep.
Okay. So we've got some time to get used to this, but computer-assisted tools, I think what immediately comes to mind, Jared, for most appraisers is AVMs. Are we talking AVMs here?
No, as a matter of fact, AVMs are addressed in Advisory Opinion 18. There was some discussion early on in this draft, this 2018-19 draft of USPAP, to actually retire Advisory Opinion 18, rewrite and include computer-assisted tools in one Advisory Opinion 37. Through the comment process, it was decided that advisory opinion 18 would be retained. It's specific enough and its own animal to keep an advisory opinion just with on AVM specifically. So no, this does not replace or deal with AVMs at all.
Okay, interesting, and I think that's important to appraisers because that that AVM is always a scary thing. We sometimes think that AVMs are taking over the world and certainly taking over our profession. So I want to pause here, folks, for just a minute before we get back and really dig into what this means to the boots on the ground appraiser. Advisory opinion number 37 will affect appraisers, and you need to know and be aware of what's coming. But before we do that, I want to pause here and remind you, of course, we are sponsored by Datamaster. I love Datamaster. I've been using it for years now. I love the opportunity to be able to be in control, as Jared was talking about, to pick my comparables, to choose what I want. The data that I want to move into my report, I'm in control as the appraiser. I hit one button and they say that it types tens of thousands of words per minute because in just a matter of seconds, it imports directly into the report. I can testify to that, folks. It works wonderfully well. You have an opportunity to verify everything. No need to fear. And if you are a little bit fearful about how this works, or you're just curious as to how it might work, I encourage you to go to datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. Once again, it's datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. You can try it for 14 days without any obligation. Again, one more time, datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. Speaking of 2 weeks free trial, have you tried a la mode yet? What is the big hubbub about a la mode? Why do I use it? Why do most appraisers use it across the land? I am asked constantly, folks, from appraisers, why is it that you use a la mode? Do I need to switch to a la mode? And I love telling people about a la mode because it allows me to be more efficient and more effective and have a higher quality appraisal report. You can try them right now with all the bells and all the whistles for 15 days at alamode.com/free trial. Once again, it's alamode.com/free trial, or you can call them at 800-ALAMODE. Finally, we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. I've been with OREP for many, many years. Had an opportunity just this last month to renew with OREP. And what I love about OREP is they are a broker who cares about the appraiser. They're not just going to give you the first bid that comes down the pipe. I'll be honest with you, the first bid that came across, I had to pick myself up off the floor. And I wrote back an email to Lori and I said, is that it? And she says, oh, no. We get bids from various places. Just hold tight. And within a couple of days, I cut that in half. And, I was glad to see that. That's the kind of company that OREP is. They talk to you and they are an advocate for you. OREP is where you go, orep.org, orep.org, if you want to learn more about the insurance company that I use. Once again, it's orep.org, orep.org. And welcome back, folks. We are talking about advisory opinion number 37, specifically USPAP. Has advisory opinions which help us to clear up the sometimes difficult language that's found in the standards themselves. And AO number 37, which is titled Computer Assisted Tools for Appraisers, is coming out on January 1st of 2018. I have on the program Mr. Jared Priesler from Datamaster. Welcome back to the program, Jared.
Thank you, Dustin.
Super good to have you. I appreciate all your knowledge here, and I appreciate you clarifying things. I do want to point out that you mentioned a CE course that you have on this, but you also have a blog post as well. Where can they find that blog post on this?
So the blog post can be accessed through our website, datamasterusa.com, and there's a tab for appraisers specifically, and underneath that tab you'll find our blogs. There's a couple of them, and you'll find the most recent one is on AO37. And also you'll find a link to the actual document there as well. You can link right to the foundation through our website and find the document. It's a rather large document. The section that we're dealing with is actually pages 52 to 59 within that big document. So if they don't want to read the whole thing and just want to come to this part, scroll down to page 52.
Okay, perfect. I actually clicked on that, and I was a little bit confused because I expected to find a paragraph, and I found something much longer than that. And I got a little overwhelmed. I thought, do we even have the text of the AO? But the AO's text is there. It's just big.
It's bare. Yeah, it's 8 pages, and it just it does cover a lot. A lot of sections.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about this a little bit. We've talked about what CATs are. We've talked about why companies like Datamaster are or should be in compliance with AO37. Glad to know that Datamaster didn't have to make any changes to what it's doing because it's already doing what it should be doing there. What other ramifications do we have, Jared, for the boots on? Why should my listeners care about AO37?
Well, I think part of that can be found in the issue section of Advisory Opinion 37. They start off by kind of talking about the rationale and then describing what it covers. And then there's two sections. One's the issues and the other is the background. And at the bottom, the last part of the issue, they close out with this question. It says, what steps should an appraiser take to comply with USPAP when using information generated by these types of resources? And that really is where it comes down to appraisers is, what do I need to be doing so I'm still USPAP compliant when I'm using these? How am I going to maintain my records? How am I going to communicate this to my client? What are the scope of work ramifications? And a good example, maybe I can throw an example out here right now that would give everybody kind of an idea. I got asked maybe 18 months ago to evaluate a regression model tool, multiple regression tool. It was fairly new to the industry. And in my market in Utah, we build homes with basements. And we finish those basements. And we live in those basements a lot of time. They become very valuable.
Sure.
They're in the market. And I know that's not the case in every market in the country. But in my market, it is. So I tried this regression model tool. And I tried it on 7 or 8 properties that I'd already appraised, finished up, and had sent out to my clients. They were all something that was already done. I'd already done all my work on. And this AVM was just not matching up at all. Or sorry, not AVM. This regression model tool was just not mixing very well at all. It was coming up with some very odd adjustments that I didn't have support for in the marketplace. And I was using the exact same data, the same searches that I had used before. And as I was talking to their technicians and trying to figure out why this was not working, I came to realize that their model, their tool algorithm never considered basements. And so this tool was maybe really good for an area like, say, Texas that doesn't have basements, but for Utah, horrible tool.
Right.
If I had just relied on it, straight up out of the box, I could have been in some serious trouble. And I said, you guys, you've got to go back and let me be in control, and it doesn't fit my marketplace. And I've reviewed appraisals where it's obvious that an appraiser used a tool that didn't fit the market. And that's the biggest thing. Don't just, as an appraiser, beware. Don't just use some tool because it has a fancy logo or because it says it's going to be really good. It just is simply, it's our responsibility to be competent in that tool and to deliver a meaningful report with reasonable conclusions that are not misleading.
But if the tool works every time, Jeremy, if I hit the button and a magical number pops out, that's good enough, right?
Well, not today. The challenges of the appraiser today are much different than those from years ago. Years ago, it was a challenge to get an agent on the phone and to verify that sale actually occurred. That's probably an easier part for us now with the help from MLSs. But all of these other tools are really shifting our competency and what we need to be doing.
I don't know if this is a true story or not, but I've heard it told by a USPAP instructor that an individual went before the state board and was asked to explain his cost approach. And I don't know the exact answer, but it was basically this, Jared. It was, well, I put the numbers in, and the software kicked out the number. Unfortunately, it didn't go very far with that state board. They didn't like that answer too much. If you want more on this, folks, I did do an episode back in November of 2016. It was episode number 172. It's called Computer Generated Incompetence. And I think sometimes, Jared, we might get into that point where we trust a little too much in technology.
There's actually a section in here where it refers to using a cost guide computer-assisted tool that gives something drastically different than maybe what a builder is giving or than what you're seeing the costs are in your neighborhood. And so that's perfect example.
But Jared,
what we're talking about.
all you have to do is put Marshall Swift / local builders and you're covered, right?
As long as you do that and builders part, then you are covered.
You actually have to do it?
Put in there, yep.
I laugh, but unfortunately, I think that there's some of that going on out there. And one of the purposes of this show is to shine a light on some of those things, not specific to one person, one individual, but listeners. If this is the way that you're using technology, even before AO 37, I think it's important to step back and say, do I understand what the technology is doing? I am a huge advocate, as you know, of using technology to make your life simpler, to make it more efficient and more effective at what you do, as long as that technology does not get in the way of quality. And I think that if you're vigilant and you understand what the technology is doing in the background, that you'll also understand that. A great example of that I had recently was the webinar that I did with Josh Wallet. And, Josh took Excel only and went through what regression tool he was using and showed exactly step by step what was happening. I think that's important, that you're not just using, say, a regression tool or a tool such as Datamaster or a Marshall Swift or a dwelling cost or what have you, that will input information without actually knowing what's going on. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that.
Yep. Perfect.
What did we not cover in AO 37? What else do we need to say?
Well, I think competency is the big thing. Also, in communicating to your client, what did you use to come up with that? To come up with your adjustments, whatever it happens to be, how you determined your market. Is the market increasing, declining, the trend lines, those kind of things. Just in describing, making sure that we're being clear in communicating what tools we did use. That part's important. Here's the one thing that I took away from this at the end of the day, and maybe this is a perfect sum up, is that two statements. I think it was Einstein that said, everything that can be counted doesn't necessarily count. And some things that cannot be counted really count. And that's especially true in the appraisal industry, is that, there's those things that you walk in the door and it's just, whether it's that ugly orange, green, yellow, red carpet that, where do I count that in my report? I just can't seem to count it, but the market does see it. Yeah. Or the fact that I might be able to count which elementary school district this particular property is going to be, this homeowner is going to go to. That might not have anything to do with value, or whether I can count the basement and whether it does. So we have to be really careful to always allow appraisal theory and not statistical theory drive the process. And that's where sometimes we get in trouble, is we just rely on the stats and we forget the appraisal theory process. And that to me is really important. Don't get all caught up in this whiz-bang tool that looks really good without really vetting it yourself. And then you'll stay out of trouble and you'll be able to produce a very efficient, fast, credible report. Like you, I love technology. I have all the gadgets. Our office is going paperless. Hasn't quite made it there yet. When you've been doing this 22 years, it's hard to go 100% paperless, but we're trying. Sure. And I think that this is some good advice. And then I would say, don't wait till January. Don't say, I can't start looking at these tools I'm using now. I would say start looking at them now so that in January you're prepared. Because again, this didn't change anything in USPAP. It just is now a tool for those regulators that we all love and admire.
Absolutely.
To benchmark us against.
My first laser measure, you mentioned that in the beginning, this even includes lasers. When I first got my first laser measure, I was out there with the laser and the 100-foot tape, and I was verifying to make sure that sucker was
accurate. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're like me, you drop it a couple of times, gosh, the next house, you might want to make sure it's calibrated again.
There you go. There you go. Jared Priesler from Datamaster, thank you so much for joining us today and shedding some light on AO number 37. Love to have you back on the program sometime, my friend.
Thank you very much. Anytime. I love your programs, and they are very enlightening. Dustin, you're doing great for our industry. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you to say. Folks mentioned Josh Wallet earlier. If you're interested in that webinar, it is still available online. Just go to theappraisercoach.com and go to the store, and you can purchase it directly there. You can watch and rewatch and rewatch. It is excellent to understand regression from somebody who understands it inside and out and doesn't use a tool other than Excel to show you and walk you through the step-by-step process. Again, you can find that online at theappraisercoach.com. Once again, thank you, Jared, for joining us from Datamaster. And folks, we will catch you next time.